What's up, guys? Welcome back to coverage of the Hong Kong ProQuest Plus event. Today, we are in the top 8, and we have a Ira versus Enigma to kick us off. Nathan, this is a matchup that, is fairly new. Ira was just legal since Worlds. Uh, but I think both players should feel fairly comfortable about this matchup. I don't really think it's like heavily tilted in either one's favor. Um, Traditionally, Ninja has been, quite good against Enigma, but Ira is a little bit more of a defensive Ninja, which is not exactly where you want to be against Enigma. So we'll have to see like what tech cards this Ira has to deal with this matchup, because I think cards like Scar for Scar and other go against are going to be very, very important.
Yeah, I think in this matchup, the burden of proof is on the Ira player, where you have those tools like you mentioned, Scar for a Scar, and I've even seen stuff as crazy as Pummel, just those
Yeah.
really aggressive tools. But adding
Mhm.
them during deck building is half the problem, Josh.
Yep.
You still have to draw them, and you have to draw them at the right time in the right sequence. So I don't want to say either person is extremely favored, although I'd have to give it to Enigma probably
Mhm.
overall, especially as the skill ceiling goes up.
Yep.
However, do not count Ira out, even though she is considered a defensive deck. There's a lot of cards that can be added, aka, like I mentioned, Pommel, looking for a scrap, things like that, even Double Strike, like we see in the hand,
Yeah.
that can really push wide, low damage, and probably just like do things like you can even park some of those tools in the arsenal and just wait for that opportune time when they block with traverse and establish the mirror guy.
Yep. Well, Double Strike coming out, getting a buff from the Shuko, and Rosker, I think, will be pretty happy to get quite a bit of leak damage in. And yeah, gonna get to establish an arsenal, leak 2. Didn't really get any power cards out of that hand, I believe. Miraging
Etchings,
Metamorph. Yeah.
Etchings is close.
Oh, yep.
It definitely against one of these against Ira.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's one of those. Enigma has plenty of time to set up,
Yep.
so Etchings is one of those cards where you kind of don't get punished by just sitting in an arsenal and being very patient with it.
Yeah.
Etchings is worse when you're playing it on a timeline, and Ira doesn't present that. So in this
Mm-hmm.
matchup, I would consider that a power card.
Okay.
So good getting that out of the hand and getting 2 damage through.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, didn't have to give up more aggressive tools. Uh, putting the double strike in arsenal and waiting for something better.
Mm-hmm. Phantasmal Clasm, going to start off the Enigma's first turn. Going to reveal the hand. Warmonger's Diplomacy, several spinning wheel kicks of the red variety, it looks like, and a blue Whelming Gust Wave. Going to take one of the spinning wheel kicks. That comes in with a breakpoint, also gets powered up by other spinning wheel kicks. And looks like Ira content to go with the mid-range game plan, blocking a little bit, establishing, a little bit of poke damage, chip damage. But let's see what else the Enigma can follow up with. Looks like just going to Arsenal levels, retaining 1 card in hand, only going to draw 3. It's back to Ira. Very, very simple turn, and this is all revealed, or the Enigma has full knowledge of this turn. Kadachi, spinning wheel kick. And we'll see how the Enigma wants to respond.
Also, one thing I'd like to kind of bring some attention to is that arm piece over on the Enigma side of the
Mm-hmm.
board. The Ira player has to be very careful when trying to establish pressure, specifically in the order of Kadachi X, right? Because you don't actually, with Stonewall Gauntlets, you don't actually force the card on the Kadachi for 2 because they can just jam the Stonewall.
Yep.
So got to be careful with that, and usually prefer the sequence of Kadachi, a go again attack, and then keep going. But obviously, Ira's options are somewhat limited.
Mm-hmm. One of the evolutions of the armor suite for Ira, at least from Blitz back when she was around, is the Pouncing Paws. I think that's going to be quite a useful piece of equipment. Going to allow for some 1-1-1 type of combat chains if like the ward starts to get established and Ira needs to clear it. That becomes quite annoying to deal with as the Enigma.
Also, let's not forget the Shuko, right?
Yeah.
There's not too many ways to turn on the Shuko in an Ira deck typically, but a card that we just saw is a guaranteed way to always trigger it, and that is Double Strike.
Yep. Double Strike.
So we'll see if there's a couple more tools. All the blue block 3 combo cards, they all trigger it if you can play one before it. So maybe that's also a utilization from Pouncing Paws, is just to actually turn on a Shuko activation.
Rage Spectre, going to be this is a much more offensive card from the Enigma. Has Ward 6 on the Enigma's turn and a Ward 1 on the opponent's turn. So this is a card that they'll normally swing and then play to protect it a little bit if possible. The Tunic should be coming up to 3 very soon. I believe it is on... It might even be on 3 at this moment. It's kind of hard to tell. And then they could swing, without having to pitch a card, which would be nice. But these Kodachi is going to make it quite difficult to protect this Rage Spectre, and it may not even be worth trying to protect this.
Well, that's the interesting part about this matchup, is this is the first actual quote-unquote test that the Enigma player is presenting to the Ira player. Playing the Rage Spectre. It's not the craziest aura that can be presented, obviously, because he's just letting it go. That could also be the fact that he knows he can't defend. But, playing those threatening auras and then saying, look, it's your job to now clear it. Although that the fact that he let the Rage Spectre go so easily is a very good indication to the Ira player that the Enigma player has something else that's better to play. So it's very important here for the Ira player to keep something in the tank, a go again attack in that arsenal to keep the pressure on, because if you just dump your hand every turn, you're not going to be ready for when that Mirror Guide drops or whatever it is.
Yeah, one of the important things for aggro decks or decks, I guess every deck needs to play as aggressively as possible into Enigma generally. So the general concept is that whenever Enigma is taking damage, that means they want to establish something on the board, which means you're going to need enough offensive firepower to break through. So let's see. I believe he's going to play Censor, and this is an interesting card. Now we've gotten almost no clues as to the texture of the Enigma's hand. I guess you could say that maybe there's double Chi in hand. That might be a decent read. But Censor naming Chi is not going to do anything. You need to name a specific Chi card or Transcend card.
Right. And there is some game that you could have. Obviously, you could possibly just try to name one of the Transcend cards, although that's like a 1 in 8, 1 in 9 shot. So not ideal. But what you could, like, naming Spec Manny or Manifestation is really good here to kind of reduce, because what you don't want the Enigma player to do is play that Spec Manny, make the Spectral Shield with 3 counters on it, and then like swing it into a 10k with the Mage Master boots. You want to prevent moves like that, and naming Spec Manifestation is the best way to do that.
Another line that could be considered is if there's a double Transcend plus Mirror Guy in hand, getting to play a Mirror Guy naturally without having to use Traverse. Levels of Enlightenment, thank you, Judge Oscar, for helping us. Levels of Enlightenment was the choice, and I don't think there's any levels in hand.
I'm not a fan of that pick because there was one in the pitch zone that turn. And so obviously they're going to run 3, so it is possible. But I guess naming either one, There's no way you name CNC, and there's no way you name Waxing Spectre. So I think that was just a dud from the get go. So it is what it is, and that's part of the. I think that's the most interesting part about the design behind Censor is it gives the opponent the opportunity to look in their hand and say, "Is this something my opponent would name?" Whereas some decks like Zen, you always name the same thing, and that's 90% of the time just Crouching Tiger, right?
Yep. Yeah, Crouching Tiger, definitely what you want to name because all those Chase the Tail lines, and just in general, they're probably going to have a Tiger. So the CNC did get a D-React from Arsenal. Rosker really wants to just play on a 5-card or 4-card hand because Waxing Spectre is not the most threatening thing in the world, but definitely don't want it to just sit around and be there. All right, Kodachi double strike. This is, I believe, the second, maybe third double strike that we've seen, and that's some useful information for the Enigma player. That now I don't know how he's going to really take advantage of that, but not knowing that you're not going to have to deal with like 2 small power Shuko enabled breakpoints is good. All right,
and that was an amazing turn to have the double strike because I consider Restless Coalescence one of the best cards in this matchup because it just by itself, if you can produce 1 counter, can take care of your Kodachis, right? And so that's usually the hardest part for Enigma is getting to the 2 for 6 or the 1 for 5 depending on the turn. But this is a really good turn produced. You wiped the board from the Ira, you did a little bit of damage, and you forced blocks with the Weakest Link. So very productive turn. Ira is off in Arsenal, so we need to really prioritize getting an aggressive tool in there for the impactful turn, but very good position for the Ira player. And there's the levels.
Okay, well, there's the level. So he did name something successfully, but didn't play it out. All right, so Preserve Tradition, going to preserve a Phantasmaclasm back into the deck, it looks like. Going to Transcend. And then could pitch for the hero ability to give levels of enlightenment a mode.
Yep. Normally we see the play where they pitch a blue to play it and then transcend to get 2 modes. This time utilizing the Tunic counter as a replacement. Although there's a lot of good options here. You can do +2 just for the threat density, which is probably not what I would do against Enigma. Or you could do Go Again to split the damage or against Ira. But drawing a card seems like a really good option.
Yeah, Mteng has a lot of choices here. And it looks like he hasn't even declared a mode yet, so you hit the nail on the head, Nathan. Quite a few choices. Let's see what he chooses.
5 and Go Again is the same thing because with Go Again, you're just swinging the shield for 2. So that you're just asking whether you want to split it, which you always would in the event. Well, not always, because it's like, do you want to decrease the value on the Fate Foreseen or Sink Below, or do you want to open up the door for that's all you got? But I think drawing the card is the better option of the two 90% of the time, because that's the thing about Mystic Heroes.
Yeah.
Drawing that blue off the top is not a bad thing like it is in 90% of other decks.
Yeah. I think Alan Lau had a quote that I really liked. He said, anytime your E-Strike, or in this case, a Blue Strike, can choose draw a card, you probably have a pretty good deck. So you think about Dromai, Briar, any deck that says, sure, I'll take the top card of my deck randomly, why not? Is probably a pretty strong deck. Right, so looks like just gonna lose the Spectral Shield, gonna block the Traverse, which tells us it is a Miragai time. Miragai o'clock. And now, I mean, that's some information that Ira needs to take into account right now. definitely going to want to set the better offensive tool into the arsenal. The downside of that, though, is that if this is a Mira guy into CNC, you're going to cry. So definitely, I think you just play the Rushing River. Or you E-Strike draw. Both, I think, are
I don't think
okay.
you can E-Strike draw because unlike the Mystic Heroes,
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of the cards off the top of that
You
deck.
wouldn't want a blue Welding Gustwave in your hand, would you? Well, looks like we're
oh,
E-Strike 7. Okay, so this, I think, is actually the worst choice. Okay. No, he's a gambling man.
all right. Let's see it. I
Yep.
cannot wait to see
Yep.
what card that is.
Yep. And he doesn't even have like the ability to bail him out if it's a snag. That is huh. That
is terrible.
That is awful.
That is terrible.
But you can bait a CNC. Let's bait a CNC.
At least it's not stuck there.
Yeah,
we'll take that.
Yeah,
we'll take that.
Yep. So I think he should have played the Rushing River, just poke him for one, Arsenal the E-Strike. There's even, yeah, I think Arsenal
especially with the information of the Traverse block.
Yes.
You know for a fact you have to have Go Again in the arsenal, or you are going to get extremely punished.
Yes.
So,
and E-Strike is the perfect card to have at Arsenal because no matter the texture of your hand, E-Strike fixes it. So yeah, let's compare the turn with Snag versus E-Strike because I think they're going to be massively different. Oh, Command and Conquer was a card down, which is
and then
there's 3 reds. Is that 4 reds? That's 4 reds. That's Erase Face as well, I think.
This is a full grip from the Enigma with a Chi, and then there's the Mirror guy. So you have
oh boy, Rage Spectre into Mirror guy into goodbye half your life total, and this Sink Below is going to be incredibly important. This needs to find a blue, and even if this finds a blue, I think you're going to sink the Erase Face probably, and then go for looking for scrap into one of the 2-cost stuff.
I think the Enigma player can even Mage Master into 10K.
Yeah,
after
that would be pretty bad.
Well, I guess you couldn't attack with the Rage Spectre, so that's probably not what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Rage Spectre currently does not have Go Again because it doesn't have
a counter right now.
+1.
It's not running the arms to give it counters anyways. So let's see what.
But you could Astral Etching the Rage Spectre. That's good. To give it Go Again.
I'm gonna pitch it.
There is an Astral Etchings, but it is being pitched.
Yep.
But keeping a D-React in Arsenal to protect the board is probably the best outcome for the Enigma player.
Yep. Swinging the Rage Spectre for 6, and I mean, as an Enigma player, this must be a great feeling. Your opponent's about to block. Looks like he thinks better of it. And we're going to have to see if the Sink Below gave him a blue. Now, the Tunic counter does bail him out a little bit. But, oh man, if that was an E-Strike in Arsenal, that would have been... Okay, look, he did draw the blue 1-2 punch. So I guess we're going to go Kadachi Tunic. Oh, sorry. Kadachi looking for scrap. Use the Tunic to play a CNC. So that's not a bad turn. 1 into 6 into 6 is quite solid. Stonewall Gauntlet could prevent this.
Or it could block 2 no matter what on the second attack. So it's not the easiest decision. You could just give up the Rage Spectre here. Because obviously Mirror Guy is the absolute top priority. But in a perfect world, you win the game if you keep both instantly. If there's a card in the Enigma player's hand at the end of this turn and both auras are still on the board, you just win because it's 8 into 6, and that's just too much value on one, and that's not even counting the ward that is actually on the card defense wise. So
I think there's some merit to throwing the Tunic in this situation. We're getting a little bit low on life, so it's not likely that this is going to see 2 more cycles.
Yeah, I think the Tunic's only on, what, 2? Is it
I
on 1 or 2?
I
I
cannot
can't
tell.
tell.
He's using these weird dice that have a symbol on the top of them, so I'm really not sure. But I mean, even if the tunic is up, I still think there's some merit to blocking. So you got a little bit of information. I don't know if the IRA was actually thinking about throwing 2 cards blocking, because I think you just instantly lose the game. So it's like a little bit of Hollywooding from our IRA player, I think. But I think you could conclude that this is not like going to be. It's very unlikely that this combat chain goes 5 wide. So we'll.
I mean,
we'll have to
I
see.
just think you have to try, right? Like the board
Yes.
is good enough to where you, because if the tunic counter's on 2, then you actually have a whole nother card you can block with. You give up the Rage Spectre, and you just tunic counter Mirror Guy for 8.
Yep.
And last time I checked, a 0 card 8 is,
It's pretty
or a
good.
tunic counter 8 is pretty good.
Yep.
So there's the Rage Spectre. We're 90% shot at just going all in on defending that Mirror Guy.
All right, so would you go looking for scrap as the second chain link, or the? Okay, so never mind. This can go 5 wide this turn. I stand corrected.
This is the play that I would make. I would chop it up, keep it low to the ground as much as possible to do that. The question is, what comes after, and that's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, the Enigma player is going to have to put this puzzle together. From the IRA player's perspective, are you going to go with Kodachi looking for scrap CNC, or are you going to go looking for scrap Kodachi CNC?
Well, we can't afford all of it, right?
You have Tunic, so you... Oh, no, you can't. Because...
Yeah. I think we're 1 short, because we have 3, and we have access to 3 resources, so it would be looking for scrap into CNC.
Yes,
the line.
My bad.
Which is a decent turn, but I don't think, because you just block with Stonewall here. If Tunic counters on 2, if Tunic counters on 1, you block with Tunic. And I think you're in a perfectly fine position to stop it.
Yep. Really big decision for our Enigma player. Still has the Mage Master's boots. You're definitely going to want to extract some value from that. This is a pivotal turn for Rosker to clear this Mirror Guy. This I think we've all experienced the runaway Mirror Guy from time to time. This is one of those cards that can carry an Enigma player to victory almost single-handedly. We're not that late. We're not that deep into the game that the graveyard is going to give a ton of information. So you're just going to have to pick a strategy and go with it, I'm saying. Does the Shuko is the Shuko damage cannot be prevented relevant in this situation? I think the only one would be the double. Well, anything that has go again
there
and
is
low power.
No. Yeah, there is no Shuko activation this turn.
Yeah.
I
mean, is there something that the Enigma player would be thinking about? Is that, okay, damage can't be prevented? Or you just throw your armor in front of it and just... It is,
no. To the Enigma player, it's the same either way. You either lose the Mirror Guy or you lose the Mirror Guy for no value. Both are equally catastrophic. So,
right. Stonewall Gauntlet going to be the option. And, of course, the IRA player going to close the chain. And we're going to have looking for scrap, banishing a 1 power card. Of course, a whole plethora of 1 power cards in the graveyard at the moment. And
this is an easy 2-card block.
Yeah, 2-card block into 2-card block, I think, is the play I think that's another Manifestations of Mirror Guy, though.
If it
Which
is,
does
that
not
card
block.
does not block, Josh.
Yeah,
It
that
does
doesn't
not.
block. That's
Which basically means that we needed the Stonewall Gauntlets to block for 2 on this Looking for Scrap because it is coming in higher than its base.
mhm.
So it could have been a 1-card block plus the Gauntlet.
Yep.
Although that is
A soul read of soul reads there.
well, it's not only that, but it like I said, if that tunic counters on 2, then it's just so impact. Oh, we have a direct in Arsenal. Nothing matters. Okay, we're good.
He's going to have to pitch the. Okay, so do you sync the Mirror Guy?
100%. 100%. You just get as much access.
Look, he did not
block.
He did not want to sync the Mirror Guy. Huh. Well, I mean, the Mirror Guy is going to power up his Mirror Guy buddy, but this could have been a disaster if there was a 7 power card. Although I don't think there would be any. Yeah, there's no 2-cost 7 power card that Ira would be running. So
a great foresight to go ahead and use the D-React and not wait for the last attack, because that would have been really awkward, giving up 2 cards and then having the D-React for the CNC. But that's just something to play around for playing against Ira.
Yep. All right, Mirror Guy in the pitch zone, swinging a Mirror Guy. I'm not sure why there's a card on the playing field. Is that... He didn't play a That's All You Got, so he doesn't have an extra card in hand, right?
No, he had 2 cards in hand.
Oh, he had 2 cards. Okay.
Because he blocked from Arsenal.
Right. He blocked from Arsenal plus 2 cards from hand plus armor. Miraging Metamorph. Well, Nathan, I think this all comes back to the fact that he chose to play an E-Strike with the draw mode instead of arsenaling it. Which, you think about it, his next turn would have had snag and sink below. He could have E-Strike and then sink the snag into a Kodachi CNC or something like that, and it would have been a pretty clean turn. Maybe even E-Strike looking for scrap, Kodachi tunic CNC. Like the difference here is quite large.
Right.
And well,
and that's a lot of damage. I mean,
yeah.
Enigma is at an effective 20 because of the Ward 4 on board.
Yep.
To 4, and
we know he's playing with a 4-card hand, not a 5-card hand, because there's snag in the arsenal.
There's so many win cons that just opened up for the Enigma player where you can just say, okay, I'm just going to try and get the most value out of Mirror Guy defensively, and then I'm just going to chip you down with like Coalescence, and you also die to Astral Etching's reaction. If they can make a
illusionist.
There it is. There's the anti-Kodachi card.
Yep. Now, how many counters does he take from the Mirror Guy? Now, each
can only be
counters,
one per turn. Right?
I mean, when it enters, right? It can take as many as it wants? Or I'm thinking of something else.
Live fact check.
These are Majestics from Part the Misfail, and I never drafted Enigma, so...
Oh, no, you're right. When this enters, you move any number of +1 counters.
Yeah, so it looks like he moved
as many
1.
As you want.
He moved 1 and then activated Restless Coalescence to block a Kodachi. And...
So he can still activate the once per turn instance. So there's the entry effect, and then you can make 1 more.
Yeah, if only you could E-Strike, sync your arsenal, that would be pretty good. But he cannot. All right, so E-Strike, I presume this has go again. Coming in for 6. Now, the interesting decision there was the Restless Coalescence. Every counter you take from Mirror Guy is 2 damage taken away from the Mirror Guy for the value of 1 shield. Now, the thing is, he's probably not going to be able to keep the Restless Coalescence, so he wouldn't be able to generate 2 shields anyway. So I think taking 1 counter from the Manifestations of Mirror Guide does make a lot of sense. Now, I think our Enigma player can get a little bit of a read that that card in Arsenal may be a D-React or a very terrible card, because it was not played last turn when we were really fighting for control of the board. And looks like, all right, content to take one. And all right.
I actually just love that play.
Yeah.
The hardest part about playing Enigma is just knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them.
Yep.
And they did a great job of identifying that you might be able to protect it, sure, but you're not going to have a card left in hand to actively do anything after.
Yep.
So then you're just in the same situation without a
MLM
restless
trigger.
to.
Yep.
And you know, you're facing down the Kodachis again. But this time, if he has an aggressive hand, he can just strip cards out of the hand, establish a board at the same time, and that puts the Ira player in probably one of the worst situations possible.
Well, the nice thing is that he's going to get to switch out his snag for a rising knee kick. Or some other blue. I'm pretty sure that was a blue that he drew. Better than nothing, I guess. I don't think snag is gonna get a lot of value in this matchup. Alright, so he has to name something because the Enigma player has chosen to not block. 4 cards in hand. Very, very skill testing card, Censor.
I think Phantasmaclasm is probably the most dangerous with you being at 4, assuming Enigma blocked down to a 2-card hand.
The Enigma player. I think he let his ward die this turn.
I think he's on a 3-card hand, right?
Yeah.
Because he played the Restless. So he should be on a 3-card hand, which means God, there's so many possibilities. You have Spec Manny, you have you could do.
Well, we know the position of the, like, he hasn't played Stir the Pot yet, so the chance he has a Chi in hand is basically 0. Maybe there's double Transcend, but again, you'd still have to name the specific Transcend card. Not easy. I do think Phantasmaclasm probably the best choice. Ira not running, I think running CNC, Weakest Link, Erase Face, so 9 poppers is a decent amount. You're going to draw that about, 40 something %, depending on how many cards you sideboarded in. And he's not going to move the snag from Arsenal? Surely having a whelming Gustwave in Arsenal is better than a snag, right?
So they named Mirror Guy, which I'm not a fan of that because it could just be played in response to in response. Well, actually, no, it can't, because once
you want
they decide, once they decide
on the card, it's already finished resolving. Yep.
Right.
All right, E-Strike for 7, and well, we have E-Strike in hand, Whelming Gustwave, Spinning Wheel Kick, and I believe that is a maybe can't quite tell what the other card is. The armor put on the combat chain, moved back to the equipment zone. Little bit of indecision from Rosker here. Of course, he cannot take all this damage because he would die. He would have to give all his armor go to 1, which is an option.
It is an option, but can he actually use every card?
As the Enigma
player,
he
had an E-Strike, so he should be able to.
Yeah, he has an E-Strike, which is good. As the Enigma player, you must be extremely confused, because if that's a D-reacted Arsenal, like, this is the time to use it, right? You give it a piece of armor, D-react from Arsenal.
I think it 100% indicates that it's a blue.
Yeah.
I would never guess snag, but it's probably just like a 1 attack blue that he just hasn't had the opportunity to end the chain on.
I think Well, you can't block just the Shuko, you'll die. So, showing the judge. Why did I put this in my... Oh, hold on. Snag will block for 2.
It blocks for 2.
Oh, my goodness. Nathan,
Look at
I've never
that.
seen this before. Oh, my God. What?
It
Okay.
works.
I mean, okay. Yeah.
And now he
We
can
are silly
just
geese.
block. he could just block the Mask of Momentum and the Shuko and
Yeah.
take 1
Yep.
and be it and keep Tunic counter, be it
Oh
a
my
healthy
God.
and can still use the whole hand. You can Kadachi, E-Strike into 1 for 5.
Yeah. That literally has to be the only thing in the Enigma's deck that is affected by Snag, I think.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I take it all back. Roskar is a strategic god. Saving the Snag.
I don't think that's what it was.
I mean,
It's nice that he saw
having
it,
to
'cause-
ask the judge, this works on this, right? maybe okay, gonna go to 1. Wants to preserve the Mask of Momentum, which is I don't quite like that because I mean
Enigma can't just eat the whole turn, so something's probably gonna get blocked.
yeah.
But I guess
I mean, being at 1, I mean, you still have your Tunic, so it's not like you have to give a card immediately. But I would like to have that little life buffer. All right, Roskar's first Kadachi cuts into Enigma. Emsang has a levels and some other illusionist cards that I never drafted. So now, I mean, there's a little bit of a pause here, which is interesting. Thinking on Kadachi or a mid attack in this combat chain. Mage Master Boots still hanging out in the suggested chess slot. Haven't had a opportunity to use it yet. We know we're probably going to see an E-Strike somewhere in this combat chain. I didn't quite get a good look at what the rest of the hand was. If I recall correctly, he had 2 blues, so the E-Strike's probably going to sink away one of them.
I mean, it's a solid amount of damage output to go Kadachi. That's 3, then E-Strike go again 8, and then a 1 for 5 at the end for another 5. That'd be 13.
Yep.
Started the turn at 9, so they have to block effectively 5, which they would obviously block the mass trigger on the E-Strike. Go to 1, be able to keep a 3-card hand. Also, but I guess the Diract, we know that there's a Sink Blow in Arsenal, which is will kind of present a little bit of a problem.
All right, we have a spinning wheel kick into it's going to be E-Strike to end the turn, so a very solid turn.
Could pitch the E-Strike for the weakest link as well, depending on what they think. I think I saw a weakest link.
I don't think he has any floating.
None floating now. Yep. So it has to be the E-Strike, which is
still good,
still solid.
Yep. So the E-Strike here, unfortunately, does not get the Enigma to 0. So if the Enigma has and did that Sink Below come from Arsenal? So he would have 4 cards to strike back, which is
no, currently 3 because the Restless came from hand. So currently on
a 3-card hand, got to filter a little bit. I mean, there's no play here other than, I guess he's thinking about the mode.
I mean, draw another Snag. Why not?
I think he's tempted to because this isn't lethal.
I think you push 7 here because it does force a card block because they don't want to drop to 1 unless they know they can rip every single card because being at 1 against Kadachis is the scariest thing you could ever do. So I think 7 here is a great spot to be.
Yep. Let's see if Mtang agrees with you, Nathan, and puts a card on the combat chain to block this Enlightened Strike.
I mean, it's an interesting decision, right? Because one is not the correct answer versus the other. It's basically the Enigma player has to evaluate and say, "Can I get Ira's hand?"
Now,
if that answer is no,
that's not even good enough because Tunic is going to be on 3.
Well, it's okay to give one card, right, for one Kodachi. That's fine because you still keep a 3-card hand, and we're in the same situation. But the Ira player is now at 1. So this is good.
What? I presume he had 2 no blocks in hand. That's the only reason you wouldn't have blocked the E-Strike.
I did see a 10K, and that blocks. So we had options, assuming that was a 10K.
Ira on a 2-card hand, but pitches, that's all you got. Now, still has Tunic.
That's a huge
so
tell.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the Tunic
that was
kind of hides that information.
Not a poison well, that was a Amnesia blocked with. All right, double Transcend going to give so Path Well Traveled, and I believe that's Rising Sun Setting Moon. Gonna have to make a shield on defense, I believe, is going to be the play.
It's really unfortunate that it wasn't a drop in the ocean. That would have been the best Transcend card here because it would have effectively blocked it and transcended. And now, unfortunately, he's going to have to make a shield to block this Kodachi unless, a Restless comes out or something like that.
Yep, I agree. All right, Enigma activation. An Alt Art Spectral Shield going to block this first Kodachi. Now, okay, Kodachi for 2. 1 card still in hand. Tunic still up. Ira generally doesn't run 0-cost closers. Her deck is built on 1-cost, 2-cost curves. So
it is an interesting amount of information, though. We know we're safe from CNC, so we can hold D-Reacts.
Yep.
Because there's not enough resources. But a 1 for 5 is a good place to be.
Just like in the old days, Pounding Gale going to be the finishing blow. And Rosper
with a no block.
Yep. A no block gets the Enigma killed. 1, 2, 5. And another game won at 1 life. Nathan, I often talk about how this is a game of inches. 1 small decision here or there makes all the difference. And, 0 to 1 doesn't get much closer than that. Pretty interesting.
The Enigma player on that turn where I said you don't want to drop to 1 unless you can strip the hand, they held a levels of enlightenment. I'm not a huge fan of that decision because
you don't have
you don't have to. Well, it's not that great with Tunic.
With Tunic. Yep.
So it really just, I think you have to pick a better spot. Give yourself the position to, because
I agree.
If he was at 4 more life or 3 more life,
the game
you just take the Kodachi and now you swing Phantasmaclasm with your Chi.
Yep.
And now we have a whole different game, right? So but those things happen. Sometimes you rip a snag off E-Strike and get value off of it anyway. You just never know.
Yeah, sometimes you get rewarded for bad decisions. Yeah. Well, that was a pretty interesting game. I also would like to note that I think it's totally fine for Enigma to extend the game. Ira will draw those bricky hands, either quad red or quad blue or 3 blues and a red, and they have to IP themselves. So I do think that not blocking that E-Strike at the end of the game was one of the contributing factors to how that game went. So, but that's okay. Next up, the semifinals. Let's go get it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to coverage of the Hong Kong ProQuest Plus. We are in the top 8 in the semifinals. And with me today is Mr. Nathan Crawford. And, well, I'm glad you're here because there's a Vincent in this game. And all the cards look similar to me.
It's not a hero that you run by every single day, but I've been in the fortunate position of playing both these heroes, and I think we're in for a very, very intricate matchup, believe it or
Mm.
not. It seems like they're going to just be throwing haymakers, and on the surface, that kind of is what's going to be happening. But especially on the Aurora side of this matchup, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make based on, do you Aurora gets paid off by setting up those big hands, right? But then you have cards like Widespread Destruction, Widespread Annihilation, and things like that that really punish that setting up. So you kind of got to pick
Mhm.
your spots and be greedy in some cases and be like, look, I'm not going to set up at all. I'm just going to, um, you know, try and not have an arsenal. And that's a great way to start the game,
Yeah.
is by playing the
Make your
card that
Rujant
says, hey,
Warmongers.
yeah, you're not going to do a whole lot.
Yep. Yeah, Vincent, definitely a deck that wants to set up a bit, with Rune Chant, Incantation. Um, so you talked about decisions, Nathan. Do you agree with the Aurora's decision to run no AB?
110%. So many people get caught up in, you know, oh, you're not going to be able to pitch for AB. What exactly is Aurora going to pitch? All her reds?
Her current funnel. Sigil of
So,
Lightning.
most Aurora lists are on anywhere between 8 to 14 blues,
Mhm.
depending. So just having the AB just does not matter. Oh, and
Mhm.
guess what? Finney's effect that says, "Oh, you can't stop my on hit because the first one's unpreventable
Mhm.
anyway." So I'm 100% on board, especially
Yep.
going first.
Yeah.
Not like Vinny really sends chance on turn 0 anywhere. Anyway,
Mhm.
she'd rather save him. But 100% on board with no AB in this matchup.
Mhm.
And how did he get a tunic counter on 6? Because I want to learn how to do that.
Hey, having an energy potion on board, I heard, is pretty good. Malefic Incantation is on the board, so that's going to help power some of the Vincent's turns. I also think there was a one cost, was it Blood Spill Incantation? The one that at the start of turn generates Rune Chance. I think that is also a card that Hennessy is running. So he's going to be able to power up his Rune Gate cards with a steady drip of Rune Chance. Over on Colin's side, we have Ravenous Rabble coming in. And what else?
All things considered, it wasn't the worst turn for Vinny
Mm,
under diplomacy, right?
yep.
It could have been way worse. You could have had a bunch of Rune Gate cards and had to just throw 6. But being able to make 2 Rune Chance and establish a Malefic is a pretty decent place to be, because now you can just go back to that value engine of blocking with a card or 2, sending a Rune Gate for
Mm-hmm.
free. And then I hope we get to see a good display of the ability
Ooh,
to go
Widespread
wide.
Annihilation. Yeah.
And this is a great example. If we have a way to give go again, we can dirge the
Mhm.
rune chant that we make on the back from the Malefic to do the second rune gate, just like this.
Shadow
And it's
Puppetry.
it's such a strong play.
Yep. Yeah, the damage output of Vincent is no joke. There's whenever they're sending 2 Runegate cards at you, it feels like, a little bit reminiscent of a Guardian sending going wide on you. You're like, oh, hold on, this is why are these numbers so large? Looks like Crown of Providence going to get the arsenal out of there to negate some of the effect of Widespread Destruction. So Shadow Puppetry not only going to give this go again, but also allows him to banish the top card if he wants to. I believe that was Deathly Whale.
Hit a well, and he can play it.
Yeah, it was
And kind of set up for the next turn. The question that he's weighing is it worth taking the 1 damage, which I think it 100%
Yeah.
is.
I think so.
Then you get you get to dirge the 1 in the back, and then go ahead and yeet the Deathly Well and make those rune chants. Because Deathly Delight, which is the last one in Banish, is a 2 cost. That is always
Oh,
it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to get it out.
Yep.
But the Deathly Well costing 3 is much more difficult. Now
Yep.
they do have the out on the board of Vexing Quillhand is always a free 3 rune gate, because you make one at the beginning of your turn, but you only get that one time, so
Yep.
got to be careful with it.
So speaking about some equipment, we have Flail of Agony. We also have Grimoire of the Haunt. So Eloquence tokens, one way to go a little bit wider, could enable a turn with, Read the Runes. Although we just saw that Deadwood Dirge kind of being better than Read the Runes, especially with the Incant in play. The synergy there is really, really nice. So far, we haven't seen any blocks from Aurora, and a 2-card block going to be coming out. And got a Somersault, those two back into hand. Shockwave and E-Strike back to the hand. And going to make a couple rune chants because heroes have lost life this turn. In fact, going to make 2 rune chants. Going to lose 1 to Blood Debt. Going to drop, and going to be back to Colin. Tunic to 3. We got Arcanic Shockwave, E-Strike, and of course, this is a Starfall for 1 to go again. Trust.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
And
so
another really interesting thing that the Aurora player has to play around is that Face Purgatory that's sitting on the board. The Aurora deck, there's a lot of cards like E-Strike that go a little tall. There's pumps like Electrostatic Discharge that really make that card easy to extract the most value from. So you have to take these lines in a very specific way to really reduce the chance of just getting destroyed by that card, because it's so much value for the Vinset player. Granted, Vinny's one of those heroes where it's very difficult to extract full value from a random card off the top of the deck. It's very difficult to do so. But I think just the discard is like more than enough.
Yep. And he's going to have a perfect opportunity in just a second. And he's even going to be able to deny the Arsenal, because this is E-Strike for 7 plus 3 from the Electrostatic Discharge. So this is
the perfect purgatory target right here, where you get full value.
Runic the one that gives plus 3 in the middle. Is that Runic Reckoning?
Yes, and Eulogy.
Yeah, he has it. Yep, and Eulogy. And okay, gotta. Okay. Well, Hennessy knows this better than I do, so it looks like he's gonna save the face purg.
If the hand's good, Josh, the hand's good.
Yep. And a Deathly Wail into Runic Wreck into, okay, he's gonna save the Runic Wreck, which I think is fine too. Gonna throw 3 rune chants at Aurora.
I do like this play because you get to Tunic counter creepers in the Runic, which is free. And then you'll have one in the back after the chain closes because the well did damage, going to 2, and then you can play the Delight out, gaining a life. So I actually think because the hand performed so well that it was actually the correct play to do exactly what they did, and not zoom in on the face purgatory, although it was very tempting because it's very rare that you get absolute max value from it.
Yep. Deathly Delight powered up by the Runic Reckoning. Gonna come in for a respectable 8 damage. And I believe the Aurora is in a no block mood, going down to 16. The life pads kind of say otherwise, though. Okay, going in. Okay, is that from the rune chants? I'm not sure. I'm a little bit unsure what's happening at the moment. But I believe they're still in blocks. They just didn't update the iPad, so. Gonna take 6, just blocking for 2 with the grasp. And let's see if this 5-card Aurora hand could make some headway. That's a good way to start a turn. Arc Lightning opening up the turn, gonna give pings whenever you get Go Again, as well as the next thing Go Again. Really a glue piece for the Aurora deck, because sometimes you do not have all the Go Again in the world. But with the Snapdragons, can unbrick most hands. Looks like Aurora, the first ping of the Arc Lightning going to connect, down to 24. Going to start with Snatch. That's a good way to start a turn.
I actually just love an armor jam here. Just all four of the armor just jam, because the Vincent hand is actually just cracked because they have the ability to actually play the Widespread Annihilation, which is going to steal an amazing amount of tempo. You could also block Funeral Moon if you wanted, but you have to have the Dirge, and the pump is just too much value. But they basically have the ability to Vexing and then Dirge, and we're on the same wavelength. You just jam the armor, and that's super unfortunate, but I think you're still in a decent spot because, like I said, you could just you pop the Vexing for 2 rune chance, you Dirge it away. That gives you the 4 that you need to play the Annihilation, and you pump it by 3, so it's 4 and 9 split damage against Arcane with Disruption, and you have a Funeral Moon to follow up the next turn to make it a lot easier for the follow-up.
Yep. And that was a very quick no block from Hennessy. So I think he's going to take the line that you were talking about. Starting off by banishing a card and playing Deadwood Dirge. Going to get a couple more rune chants. Has the Reckoning, has the Funeral Moon. Vexing going to give him 5 rune chants. Runic Reckoning into Widespread Annihilation.
And this is just worth so much tempo because the Aurora player probably has to give a card from hand, right? Because you don't want to drop to 1 because they can make you're just dead to the rune chance. So as long as they can swing weapon, which they can with literally no cards in hand. That's the beautiful thing about Vincent, is it costs life to swing that weapon instead of resources. So you basically have to give at least 1 card, and then the Annihilation is going to get another card banished. So this is an amazing amount of tempo that the Vinny player has, and they're going to be sitting on 2 rune chants after the Funeral Moon is resolved. And it's just a great spot to be in. And basically all the Vinny player has to do is not completely brick next turn, and it's kind of their game to win in this spot.
Yep. So Aurora probably going to lay down most of the hand, if not all of it, to deny some of the Widespread Annihilation value. Grasp. And 2 cards from hand. Ravenous Rabble and Snatch. Sigil of Suffering going to ping. And provide 4 extra block. Because both of these Rune Blades no longer have AB. Oh, never mind. The Grimoire has AB.
Yep. Now, I really like this line from Aurora because what it does is to say, okay, you blocked with your creepers. You have no tunic counter. I dare you to draw a functioning hand. And I've played Runeblade for a long time, and I know that sometimes that's just what you have to do. And if they draw that non-functioning hand, for absolutely no cost, boom, you're back in the game.
Is there a reason why he didn't block with the Snatch that's now in Banish as well?
He could have, and probably should have.
Okay. Because that
maybe they were not familiar. Yeah, maybe they were not familiar with the effect
on resolution effect of the Annihilation. All right, Sonata Galaxia. So starting off with the Bloodspill incantation, Sonata Galaxia going to grab another aura. Looks like Blessing of the Occult going to be the choice. That'll pop at the beginning of turn and give him 3 rune chance. Along with the Blood Spill, we'll give him 1. So that basically unlocks almost every single Runegate card in the deck. Oh boy!
And this is kind of what I'm referring to when I'm saying that you got to dare the Vincent player to kind of have it. Now this is a very good functioning turn because they're not allowed to throw it, right? So you have to basically kill Vincent this turn.
Yep.
But Aurora has a full hand, right?
Yep,
and
Tunic
that is well, they'll make one at the beginning. Well. That'll be 3, 6. So you can live it 1 if you strip their whole hand and they can't swing weapons. So yeah, all you have to do in this situation is just get you have to get all of Vinny's cards. You don't have to kill her, but you do have to get the cards. And this is a good way to start it. We have Tunic counter. So the go again problem is solved in the hand. We can Tunic counter, Starfall, and just go 4/4/4, and that's a great place to be. I'm not sure if it's going to be quite enough, but we will see.
Yep, an E-Strike draw might be required this turn. We'll see. Blocking the Lightning Surge, taking 1 down to 10. Hennessy down to 9 now after the Arc Lightning ping resolves. CLV going into the pitch zone. Grasp activated. Generating a rune chant. Pinging again with Arc Lightning. I think I would have preferred to see the CLV played. What about you?
It's kind of a gamble. It's guaranteed worth 2 value because the go again resolves in the grasp, triggering Arc Lightning. So you are getting 2 value from it.
Okay.
I don't mind that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's not too bad.
That's actually it's actually kind of good because they basically have to just
throw
because they can only send 1 attack. So the problem is you have to block the attack.
Does he have 7 chance now?
No, he has 6 if I'm not mistaken.
The Blood Spill plus the Banish. Oh, we forgot the Banish. That was the one that was missing, I think. Oh, Sigil of Solace. Singapore edition. Very important card to have.
That's a great card to have.
Oh boy.
Great card. But you still got to block 2 cards, and preferably they got to block for 3 is the unfortunate part, which they do. Okay, so we have full block
Static
here.
Shock. Pretty good. Okay, so going to have 2 cards to strike back. Now, also the Blood Debt, I think he's going to take 1. Maybe he already did. I think we missed it. So Arcanic Shockwave?
Definitely should. But I don't think... I think regardless, it's just not enough because the Vinny players at 6, they have a guaranteed way to play. As long as they banish any card, they can play the Runegate out and deal 2 and 5. Yep. Actually more because there's a Beseech in Arsenal. So to be 2 and 8, which basically steals all tempo and the game. Assuming there's no Sigil shenanigans again. So it's a difficult spot for the Aurora player, even though, because diplomacy is done for Vinny. So
I believe that's a Haunting rendition as well.
Card blocks 4.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Deciding on blocks. No doubt we're going to see the Snapdragons deployed into Gone in a Flash. Now, did he take the ping from the Arcanic Shockwave? Okay, there we go. Deciding not to AB.
Easy 4 block here on the rendition.
Or Eulogy plus Prevention got a float. Okay. Okay. Floating the
Oh,
prevention to cover up this nicely.
I love that play because then you can
Yeah.
just block your hand out if you wanted to, if you really needed to, and then you could just jam
The Rune Gate card. All right. Deathly Whale going to cover up that attack. And all right. Start of turn, going to banish Runic Reckoning. Make a Rune Chant. Blood Spill going to tick down, make a Rune Chant. And now we have 3 Rune Chants, and the only thing that's going to save our Aurora player, Colin, is a Sigil of Solace.
And I don't even think that does, because this will be 3 and 8 from the Beseech. So,
yep. So going to need a Sigil plus
a bunch of 3
cards.
blocks.
Yep. Which, could happen. The fact that the fist bump has not been extended yet is some indication. All right, Beseech into Deathly Delight, and there we go. No Sigil of Solace. Good game. Hennessy Wong is in the grand finals of the 2025 Hong Kong PTI Plus event. Well played to him. So what did you think about that game, Nathan? That was a pretty interesting game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Vinny player played phenomenally well. Also, the Aurora player did played 2 diplomacies, and neither one of them just really shut Vinny down. I think the second one, all it did was they had to like wait a turn to play the Beseech. Like that's all it effectively did. So they were able to use Sonata to go and just grab more non-attacks and be in an okay position. So very interesting there. And the Aurora didn't really have that super explosive turn that they really need. But yeah, a great game overall.
All right. Well, we're going to be bringing you guys the grand finals in just a few seconds. All right, let's go do it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the grand finals of the 2025 Hong Kong ProQuest Plus event. With me today is my good friend Nathan Crawford, and well, Nathan, we got a unusual matchup, one that I personally have never seen. This should be some good fun. We have Ira versus Vincett. We have Rosker on Ira and Hennessy on Vincett. We saw both of these players playing in the quarterfinals. We saw the Ira in the quarterfinals, and we saw Hennessy playing Vincett in the semifinals. So we've had a little bit of of experience with these guys. Nathan, what do you think about this matchup?
I've played a lot of Vinny, but I've actually never played this matchup specifically. Obviously, with Ira being a little bit newer, but it actually seems like it's going to be pretty interesting because Vinny has always had this. I don't want to say weakness, but it's definitely a problem that she actively has to solve, and that is fatigue. When decks want to be extremely defensive against her, she has to have enough just fuel in the tank. And I'm very interested if the Ira player decides to go that avenue, which is kind of a player skill check, or to play the normal tempo game plan. I'm very interested in seeing which way they kind of lean in doing that, because I'm not actually sure which one's correct. I do know that if I was making a read on my opponent, maybe if I thought they could not handle the fatigue route, maybe that's the reason you would pursue that avenue. But as far as which one's better, I'm not really sure, Josh.
Well, Mr. Warrior over here is not sure either, but from my experience playing against Vincett, I don't think pure fatigue is realistically possible without life gain. The reason being is that Vincett could stack a 40 damage turn if they want to, utilizing the Spellbound Creepers, Eloquence tokens, several cards in the banish zone. I I think the Ira player is going to have to put on enough pressure that the Vincent, if they want to make a move, is going to have to pay life, and maybe save a critical disruption piece for an important turn. For example, if the Vincent is trying to stack damage, um, try to disrupt right before they throw all that stacked damage off, could cause them to take 4 to 5 blood damage, which could be the difference in this game. So we'll have to see. But there's no Grimoire in the arms in the offhand slot, so this might be a little bit of an indication that this is going to be a little bit of a quicker game. But it's really going to depend on. I think really it's going to depend on the speed of Ira, like whether Ira's blocking more, A-being more, or just, try to keep powerful hands, especially when the tunic comes up.
And Josh, what we're going to see next, something you're very, very familiar with, is as a warrior player, you like that first attack to just gauge your opponent, to establish tendencies. And I think this is what the Vincent player has to do. This first initial turn is like, okay, the Ira has 2 choices. Are they going to block some damage? Are they not going to block some damage? And that's going to kind of influence what you're going to do, whether you actively need to stack, right? Because if they're actively making trades, playing the tempo-oriented game plan, you don't need to stack, right? And so that's what this turn is mainly about. So I'm very interested to see if after the decisions are made, if we see a drastic shift in gameplay.
Yep. So there's a little bit of a tell there of 3 rune chants taken. That could be an indication that the hand doesn't have 2 blues. It could be an indication that Rosker wants to play a little bit more aggressively. We'll have to see. Looks like there's a pouncing key in hand, a sensor, I believe. So he could have pitched the pouncing key. Could have extracted basically near 12 block from his hand if he wanted to. But he chose to take the arcane damage. I also think we're going to have to look for cards like Scar for Scar in the Ira's deck. Looking for scrap. These are indications that the deck is less defensive. If we see things like, multicolor, flick flack, sync fate, that's all you got, etc., we could be in for a very long game. Deadwood Dirge going to blow up some more rune chants and allow a nice clean 2 wide attack with split damage. And I mean, we're on turn 2 and Ira's already taken 11 damage.
Yeah,
so it feels like he's committed.
Yeah, anytime widespread annihilation is on the board and it's playable, I'm a huge fan of just giving up the hand to deny the banish trigger. You can't always do it, but I think that's the first part of the flow chart, right? Is there a way that I can just lay the entire hand down, get full value, and then negate the banish card? Because they're losing a card's worth of value. Okay, so we're not fatiguing, Josh. We have established what we are not doing.
We are not going to go that route. Going to banish Torrent of Tempo. And I mean, what type of disruption could there be that Vincent cares about? He doesn't have an arsenal. You play Sensor. That might affect something. You play Weakest Link. He doesn't run no blocks. You run a Race Face. Okay. Sometimes then he didn't even want to banish a card.
Actually, a Race Face is very
removes
important.
Tokens, yeah. Tokens.
Yeah, because Rune Chant loses its name, therefore you literally can't Rune Gate. So it does buy time, but the problem is like Vinny loves blocking 2 cards. Half of her Vinny is one of those heroes where, like, depending on the texture of the hand, she'll no block. Sometimes she'll love to block 2 cards. It really just is a play-by-play on the hand.
All right, looking for scrap into Spinning Wheel Kick into Sensor. Needed to keep the pouncing key to power this turn. Now, here's the funny thing. Vincent being kind of an off-meta hero, some people may not even know what to call. You know, the one with the
Yep.
rune gate that has the purple art and it blocks for 3 and it's a red. That one. He says, "Go ahead, have your MOM trigger. Name a card."
So, unfortunately, there's not a lot of information apparent. Like, there's a couple things that you could do where if they didn't have Vex and Quillhand, right? Vex and Quillhand is like the get out of jail free, right?
Yep.
But if that was gone, you could say, okay, I'll name Eulogy because that's the easiest thing to play with a no rune chance on the board. But with Vexing on the board, literally anything 3 or lower is instantly playable. So there's nothing up front about what you
Gonna name Deathly Will.
I wonder if they picked Deathly Will just because
it's there.
they could name it because it was in the graveyard.
I personally would have called Widespread Destruction because you're ending on an arsenal. So, but Deathly Will is one of those cards that they run like Rainbow of, or near at least 6 copies of. So that is a higher chance play. That Funeral Moon being played out, gonna give him a Rune Chant. Start of turn, gonna banish Widespread Ruin. And we're gonna go Shadow Puppetry into Widespread Ruin. Come in for 2. Get a little bit of a bump from the Shadow Puppetry. So it's gonna come in for 7. On hit, gonna be able to reveal the top card, or look at the top card. If they want to banish it, they can. Now, with no Rune Chance on the board, this might be a little bit more of just a setup turn. There's also a chance that there's a Deathly Whale on the top of the deck. So,
yeah, I mean this could be anything. This could be Revel into Weapon. This could be Read the Runes. I mean, there's no real information here, so it's actually a very difficult block. In that you don't really have anything to actively go off of. But when you have a Flick Flack in your hand, it makes the decisions a little bit easier.
Yep. So the arcane damage, I think he took. And Warmonger's Erase Face in hand. Those are 2 cards you definitely want to keep. With the Tunic up, you can also go Kodachi into Erase Face. Although coming in for the breakpoint might be more relevant. We'll see.
Actually, a huge fan of just blocking down and trying the Diplomacy. With Vinny having no current setup on the board that you know of, I'm a real big fan of just blocking down and saying, "Look, best of luck."
Mm-hmm. He didn't even look at the top of his deck because he knows he doesn't want to banish it. Because he already ripped the Elegant Eulogy with the Tunic. Doesn't he need... Oh, right. Rune Gate is optional. He can just play it from hand.
Correct.
Yep.
By paying the cost, which Eulogy is only a 1 cost.
Yep. Not too bad. And there's the Flick Flack. So again, I think he would have been able to extract... well, we know he doesn't have a combo card in hand, but he would potentially have been able to extract a little bit more value. All right.
Now, it does still make the Eulogy because they've already taken damage from the first attack. So that is there. But now they are deciding to attack instead of going the Diplomacy line, which does make a good bit of sense because they didn't block as much as they could have on the first attack.
Yep. We know Erase Face is in the hand. I'm not sure what the arsenal is, but I think we're likely to see a second Kodachi, or maybe a Looking for Scrap. Yep. You could tell by the body language he was about to play it, and they're like, "Hold on, do I have something in the graveyard?" Yep, he does. 6 go again. Going to be able to come in with an Erase Face, or potentially just Arsenal. So just come in with a Kodachi Arsenal is also potentially good, depending on what the Vincent does. And looks like the Vincent wants to block for 2, so what would you do here, Nathan?
Malefic being an amazing card, the problem is that the card that is next to it, the Widespread Annihilation, is a very, very expensive card. And so I'm actually just a huge fan of either blocking, because you can't just block the 3 block and then play Malefic, right? Because you have to trigger Vincent. It's not a May ability.
Yep.
And you don't want to just turn the Malefic into 1 rune chant because it's just not worth it when you have Vexing Cool Hand up. If you didn't, then I would say it's probably worth doing so. But I'm just a huge fan of just blocking for 5 here. And try again next turn, because if it's ever okay to give a deck full tempo, it's probably okay to give Ira a little bit of tempo.
Yep. Especially without Snapdragon Scalers, like, their clunky hands are clunky. MOM triggers, does it? Am I missing something? I thought the second attack was blocked. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what happened or why the Ira drew there, but okay. All right, so just Vincent banishing the card from hand, back to the Ira. Full tempo for the Ira. Got a Blessing of the Occult, Sonata Galaxia.
Now, they ended up taking the much more greedy line, but it actually ended up getting paid off because they have the line open to them to where they can just block the entire hand if they really want to, and use Haunting Rendition for the get a rune chant effect. And that would put them at 2, and then you could pop Vexing Quill Hand to get up to 4 for the Annihilation that is in Arsenal. So it is a playable card now, which means they actually got a little bit of value from the previous turn. The question is, sending 6 plus 4, is that really enough against Ira when she actively wants to be trading anyway? That's the better question. Do you need a little bit more setup? Do you wait for like a really good Creepers activation or something like that? Very interesting.
Yeah, we still haven't seen any of the equipment utilized. So I also think you want to extract some value out of the Eloquence token. Of course, most of the non-attack actions do have go again. The only ones that don't, I believe, are Read the Runes and is Blessing of the Occult a non-attack action aura? That could
it is, and it does not have go again.
Yeah, so that could be another way to utilize that Eloquence token. Really having a think on this, because this feels like kind of the breaking point where it's like, okay, if you don't block, we're really gonna race. So here we go, Amnesia. What, just like we were talking about, Nathan, giving Ira full tempo, all she can do is send 9 damage IP herself. So Amnesia, a relevant on hit.
There's a ton of options here. I would say that it's a possible purgatory line. The problem is you've held the Haunting Rendition a little too long, and so it becomes just kind of a little bit of a dead card, because you obviously are not going to block with an attack, non-attack, and the purgatory, and then be able to extract value from the Haunting Rendition. So it is a little bit more of a difficult spot in this situation, but I understand the need to be a little greedy in this spot because it seemed like Vinny was really ahead. But I think the way that Vinny loses from this spot is by making the small trades and not setting up for one big turn to kind of close it out. Because if you just send 6 and a couple rune chants, they block hell, and they have all their armor, so they can actually just block all of it and then go Kadachi 5, and then you go, what now, right? You have no setup, Vexing's gone, you have creepers, but what good is that going to do you when you're not really set up for anything? And so it's a difficult spot to be in, and understanding that a small little mid-rangey turn it might not be enough.
Amnesia also making the rune chants lose their name is quite relevant if you want to send anything back from the banish zone. So probably going to have to block this out. Can't just take this to the chin. And I think we're kind of in that position where it's like Ira has a life lead, a tempo lead, and that's really not where you want to be as Vincent. You want to be the one pressing against their throat. Seeing the Fate Foreseen pitched kind of indicates that the last two cards are more defensive. Well, not necessarily, but there's a decent chance. Since Ira will definitely want to meet a burst turn with, a good defensive suite. Looks like Hennessy going to be blocking with 2 cards.
I don't know about you, Josh, but I would love to see a pummel here.
He's gonna have to ask Alex Lowe for some tips on how to do that.
Even do the old overpower trick where he pitched the red Fate Foreseen to make it look like he was low in resources to
it's like
not
JK
even
have
make
a blue.
Yeah, like man, this would be the best pummel ever because it would really work.
Yep. We talk about getting reads on our opponents. Since this block has taken a little bit of a long time, I'll tell a little bit of a story. So on turn 0 against people that I don't know their skill level. I don't know how they like to play against Dory. If I'm going first, I will always pitch a red if I can to see how they react to that. If I do plan on attacking them, and that gives me a good bit of information whether they block 3-6. Seeing I pitched a red gives me some information about what level they're thinking at. All right, here we go. Block for 6 using the oval to block with the 3 block and 2 block. And Ira going to pass a turn back. We have we got an E-Strike drawn for the Ira. I didn't quite see the other cards. All right, start a turn, banish, make a rune chant. Gonna need to use the Vexing, most likely.
Now this is actually pretty okay because you can pop Vexing, have the 4 chance, and then play Sonata. X equals 2, and since X equals 2, it gains Go again. Not that it actually needs it anyway because you have an Eloquence token. But it is an interesting line. I just don't know what auras they have access to. Some lists are on like 1 Blessing of the Occult just for the Sonatas.
That costs 1, doesn't that? So he doesn't have Tunic up at the moment.
It comes out free.
Oh, okay.
It puts it into play. So
okay.
And it's discounted by the number of rune chants you have, which is currently 4. So you can also get Cussing is another option because you are probably doing damage this turn with Tunic counter on 1, sending 4 arcane and 6. Either means you dealt damage, they are still to de-react, or you got every card out of their hand. And all of but one of those is a great outcome for Vincent.
Yep. Let's see if he is running Arcane Cussing. Looks like Blood Spill Incantation going to be the card of choice. Not sure if he's going to be able to extract all the value from this because the game may not go 3 turns.
I think
this might be. I
think they actually can. I think they actually can, but it is going to require a change in pace kind of play style.
Yep.
Where instead of setting up for that big turn to close the game out, now you're actively just trying to block down and get the most value, which is kind of scary to do against Ira because she's typically the queen at doing that.
Yep. And at 10 life, these Kodachis have a definitive clock on the game. All right. All 4 rune chants hit, and now we're left with 6 physical damage. Still haven't seen the Spellbound Creepers used yet. This might be important for a last-minute push of damage. Although I think, as you like to say, Nathan, these are just going to be expensive Iron Rots, or Iron Rot Jordans.
That's it.
100
Iron Rot
bucks
Jordans.
to block for 1.
But you look good doing it, Josh.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we have a CNC, a Pounding Gale, and an E-Strike in the hand of Rosker. Also a Flick Flack, which is not the greatest card when they're not going wide, but it is extremely good if they are going wide.
It looks like the Ira's hand is a little bit lackluster now. I think that is an E strike tucked in the back. So
Yep.
a general rule of thumb is a hand can only get so bad when you got an E strike in there because it kind of just fills a lot of those voids.
Yep. Widespread Annihilation, though, is gonna he's gonna lose one of those cards. So, but his hand literally falls apart if he gives them another card. Is the issue.
Right.
So,
Right, which is why he has to block just 1 and then banish and then go ahead and E-strike for 7 to call it a day. Which is kind of, once again, it's exactly where Vinny wants to go, and it's why they selected the incantation, because they're just trying to get this engagement, and then the split damage is what's going to tear Ira apart. Because, believe it or not, there's a lot of turns where Ira just does not draw more than 1 blue. And if they're pitching that for AB, they're not doing a lot on offense.
Yep. Unless they draw that wonderful WTR Majestic that we see right now. E-Strike fixing all the bad hands. It says 2019. Runic Reckoning and Beseech going to be blocking for 6, taking 1. All right, there's a Whale banished. The Bloodspill Incantation going to tick. Give him a rune chant. Tunic is now live. Going to use Tunic to play another Bloodspill Incantation. So now the pace of play, well, that normally refers to slow play or not, but the pace of the game, I think it's going to slow down. Vinny going to try to extract max value from all these incantations.
Which is a very hand-dependent situation on Ira, right? Like if Ira has a, E-strike or a bunch of access to go again, like a looking for a scrap in hand right now, then this is going to turn out to be a catastrophic play. However, if the outcome is just Kodachi for 1, Kodachi for 2, and then like CNC for 6, then this is exactly what you want to be doing. Blocking, setting up a little bit, and then make 1 good push to rip the hand apart and then just take it over.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got Spinning Wheel Kick. That is a turn extender in the hand. Looks like going to Kodachi as the second chain link. Or not. Can't quite tell what the other 2 cards are. That's okay. I think that's a Censor. Yep, Censor. So we got Spinning Wheel Kick and then Kodachi into Censor at the very least. So the Vincent highly incentivized to block in this situation because the MOM trigger is somewhat relevant. Also, 5 damage when you're at 6 is also quite relevant. Is there any merit to trying to use face purg here?
It's actually very difficult. It's not as easy as it kind of leads to be, because Ira, just when she has absolute full tempo, it's actually very rare that she can use every card. So wasting the block value on Purgatory could actually lose you the game because you don't actually extract any value from them discarding.
All right, Rosker pushes another Kodachi. And Hennessy takes 1, drops down to 5. 9-5, the health totals right now.
Also to note that it does seem to be a yellow Deathly Well in Banish. So it's only going to come in for 5.
Oh,
Although
hold on. The sensor could name the Deathly Well, right?
That it can.
So this is going to force another block from hand.
But I think the idea was to block anyway.
Yeah. The Vincent often operates on a burst turn setup type of gameplay. Tunic to 1, blood spills tick down, powering up to 4 rune chants, allowing this Deathly Wail to come out. Deathly Wail, extremely good, especially when you can throw a breakpoint amount of rune chants. However, Tunic is up.
Yeah, with Tunic counter and a blue, assuming that Ira did have access to 2 blues, and then a 3 block plus mask, you can very easily cover this up and then keep a 2-card hand to do your standard rotation. Yep. So if the hand texture is 2 blues, which it obviously is, if they're pitching one now, then it gets really rough for the Vincent player.
There's the infamous E-Strike denying snag from the quarterfinals. Looks like we have a Pouncing Key and a Race Face, and that might have been a Scar for Scar, the first card, not exactly sure. Now, coming in only for 5, not coming in for 6, is huge. MOM very unlikely to get much value from here on out because the life totals are so low. And Rosker going to extract a good blocking value from the MOM. And as soon as those incants fizzle, I think the window for Vincent to win this game may close, especially with this ticking time bomb that is the harmonized Kodachis.
It's a very difficult place to be in because they don't have the runway to make that really big push.
Yep.
And them having the double blue and not allowing you to bank a rune chant on that last turn is actually pretty big. Now they do have a really good 1-card play with the widespread destruction in hand, because you do have the ability to, obviously your double incant's going to tick down, make 2 rune chants, and then you're going to make one for actually banishing it. Is a pretty good 1-card play. The question is, what after?
Yeah, this feels like this is the Malefic incantation going to provide a little bit more gas to extend this game. But it feels like with those blood spill incantations falling off the board in the next few turns, this could get really, really, really difficult.
I really like the pause from the Vincent player in this situation because a lot of people just default to, okay, you obviously Arsenal the Shadow Puppetry because Tunic counters on 2 and you're going to Creepers it next turn. Well, the life totals are very low, and the chances of you not blocking with your armor and keeping that many cards to actively make the creepers a good line is kind of slim, to be honest. So just ripping it for the 1 damage and the possible banish off the top if it's a funeral moon is actually in contention for being the best line, which sounds crazy, saying it, but like it really is that close on what you think the Ira player is going to be able to produce on offense.
If there's an Eloquent Eulogy on top as well, he could also rune gate that because he's going to get a rune chant from the Malefic. So there's like 6 possible cards. I think the graveyard check was to check for those 2 cards, Funeral Moon and Eloquent Eulogy, and Hennessy deciding the risk is not there, or the payoff is not there, and just going to throw 3+6.
And then also the +1 would add another breakpoint.
It would give the tunic.
Could be impactful.
Yep. Gonna take all the rune chants. And as we found out yesterday, the code to the iPad is 000. So he got right back in there. Takes the rune chants, drops to 6. So now Widespread Destruction is going to blow the arsenal up. So if the arsenal is not a D-React, this is a little bit of a odd line. 1 card pulled into the blocking position, kind of indicating that the arsenal is a D-React. Maybe Hennessy got a read that the arsenal is a Sync, Fade, or Flick Fleck. So having the +1 from the... Ooh. Okay, this is a block I did not expect. Huh. Okay, gonna take 2, trigger, lose a CNC. Okay. Interesting. Now the Iris still has AB, so being at 4 is not the worst. The blue count in the deck still basically the same as the start of the game because Ira hasn't shuffled, and we're not on 2nd cycle yet. And Ironrot Jordan's gonna block this first Kodachi. Bittering Thorns for a breakpoint, giving an additional damage on the next attack. Reduced to Rune Chant in the hand. Could be paired with the Tunic to block this.
And does have the Rune Chant to make it free, which is very, very important.
Yep.
Also makes a Rune Chant to play what could be the next card. We see a Deathly Wail, which will be playable because of the reduced to Rune Chant. Well, actually didn't even need it because there's 1 counter left on the incantation.
Censor going to come in as Chainlink 3. On hit, name a card, and they can't play it. This is the brother card to Chains of Eminence.
Now, I don't like going to 1 against Ira.
Yep.
But this might be the hand. You have the option to block with one of the 2 blocks. Preferably not the Dirge. And then you have the ability to just Dirge into your Rune Gate card, and you basically have to count your Rune Chance and see if it's enough damage to actively justify it. And if it is, which it very well could be, then you literally just get... It could be better than just blocking 2 and 2. They'd have to work it out, but it's not a straightforward line on which one's actively better.
Yep. The surface level math is, okay, I Dirge, I extract 3 value. If I block with it, I extract 2 value. But the math is a little bit more fuzzy with Ira. because of the Kadachi lock. Looks like Hennessy wants to block with 2 cards for 4. Or, sorry, one of those was a 3 block.
And in this situation, the Dirge actually... they're... Okay.
Huh.
So... wait.
Huh.
Uh...
I'm not sure if that was the right block. So yeah. Well, why don't you break it down for us a bit?
I mean, the only threat was like they named Deathly Well, right? And he technically, the second turn of the game, the card that he named was Deathly Well. And if we know anything about human patterning, with things that they're not super familiar about, people tend to repeat things. So there is a lot of logic behind the idea that he thinks the opponent was going to name Deathly Well. Yeah. And if that did happen, you instantly lose the game.
Yep.
Because you have to banish it. It has to deal you damage. And that's not where you want to be. Because you would be at, guess what? 1. And so it is risky. You have to gauge the spot and say, am I in the game enough to where I can make this kind of conservative, guess and still be in the game? But that was actually a very deep decision when you really dig down. And I think that's what ultimately was going through his head and what his thought process was I think just people are creatures of habit and they're probably just going to name the same thing.
Yep. And it's very possible that this 4-card hand from Ira only pushes 9. Now, Ira can extract a little bit more value because she has an open arsenal slot. But I think there's a Torn of Tempo in hand, and that's actually a very deadly card because there are still 2 cards in the back. So even if these are those measly 1/2 power blues, that's still going to be an extra damage on top of this, and looks like going to Arsenal the Pounding Gale. So once again, like we said before, only extracting 8 value from that turn. Incant is Bloodspill Invocation is gone. Shadow Puppetry played from the arsenal, and that's a Phantom Banshee that's sitting out in the Banish Zone, ready to be deployed.
So this will be coming in hot for 8, due to the +1 from the Shadow Puppetry, along with I can't see, but it looks like 5 rune chance.
It could be 3, could be 5, could be 6. I guess we'll find out very soon.
Yeah, a number. We do have several blues and D-Reacts in the Hand of Iris, so definitely blocking some of the rune. It could be that situation where you just block the whole thing out. Yes. And say, look, Vinny, with no rune chance, or I guess they'll have 1 in the back from Malefic.
Okay, so that was just 5 rune chance.
5 rune chance. Okay, it took 2. So you can still block the full 8 with double D-React, which I think is in the hand. But then you're left with 1 card. And it's very interesting. And don't forget, the Vinny player has Go Again. They have the ability to swing that weapon for another rune chant, which if you give them the tempo, it could actually be the correct line because it is going to shrink the game a little bit, but as long as you don't dip, the difference between 3 and 2 against Ira is nothing if they keep 1 card because it's Kadachi for 1, you take it. Kadachi for 2, you block it. If you're at 2, that equation is the same. You just can't do that equation a second time. So swinging that weapon is actually a little bit enticing, especially if Ira goes super defensive and kind of just gives all the cards in hand. It's like, are you going to give me a rune chant? Because I'll take it.
This is actually extremely dangerous for Ira. Ira does not have 2D reacts in hand, so this attack is going to hit. So could instantly lose the game from a, because there's one rune chant right now, could instantly lose the game to Eloquent Eulogy. And this Flail of Agony at the minimum is going to hit. So going to be at 2.
And make a rune chant in the back.
Yes, and make a rune chant in the back. And with 2, well, being at 2 and being at 1, very, very, very big difference, because at 1 you would literally lose to Vincett's hero ability. I mean, the Ira actually would have lost the game in the next turn if that was not a D-React, because she would be at 2 with no cards.
And it's a widespread ruin that cannot be played.
Yep, just gonna.
There's no way to access it, which means you cannot banish it. However, with one rune chant on the board, it is a guaranteed rune gate card that you can play. So you definitely don't banish it, but it is a sense of security, right? You don't draw the all dreaded, all non-attack or anything like that. So you are safe from that.
Yep.
And it's an attack that no matter what your hand texture is, it is playable next turn, which is exactly where you want to be if you're Vincett. The Vincett player's done a great job just kind of flipping this game around and maintaining control by setting up with what I think was the root cause, those incantations.
There's one thing we didn't consider, is that by attacking with the weapon, that rune chant is going to discharge, and Ira has 1 floating. So I think he's deciding whether or not to attack with the weapon. He's going to leave the rune gate card on the top of the deck, and he's going to throw the Flail of Agony. Going to AB 1, take 1, make a rune chant.
Yep. All it does is just shrinks the life on both sides by 1. That's all it does effectively. It doesn't change the board state. As far as rune chants go, you don't gain any, you don't lose any. But shrinking the game is exactly what you want to be doing as the Vincett player when your opponent...
4 blues drawn from the Ira. It's going to have plenty of arcane or pitch for the arcane barrier. But, you know, Nathan, there are physical breakpoints. There are also arcane breakpoints. Coming in for 4 would be pretty annoying, but being at 2 is the saving grace. Lots of decisions for Vincett. Which card to banish? Objective at the end of the game: get as many cards from your opponent as possible.
This is actually an interesting position from the Vincett player, because they're basically deciding between playing the Deathly Delight versus the Widespread Ruin. The Deathly Delight is going to come in for 1 less damage, but gain you a life on the tail end, or 2, depending on if you have a Shadow non-attack, which I do not think they do. They don't. And then you just have... You know, you're in that spot where do you value the life gain or the 1 extra damage? And of course, they're going to apply the pump to whichever they decide to play, and valuing the damage over the life gain, which is probably correct. But Ira does run an astronomical amount of 3 blocks. So I don't know if there's actually a difference between 9 and 8. But we will see.
All right. Going to get every card from the Ira's hand. Gonna AB, putting back heel kick back into the deck, and then throwing 3 blocks in front of this. Now, nothing has changed, but the Vincett player is going to be on an arsenal, and there's no incantation. That is the difference between this turn cycle and the coming up turn cycle. Ira.
So we're really just looking for go again. Can Vincett secure a source of go again?
Sonata Galaxia. A few other cards in hand. Deathly Delight being banished.
Sonata's a tricky one, because you have to pay what is effectively 4 resources into it. X equals 2, and it's 2x is the cost. So you basically have to pay 4 to get the go again clause on Sonata. So they would have to pitch the last 2 cards in their hand to play it, which is completely doable, and it doesn't look like they're doing much else with it. So the question is, what auras are left in the deck? Because that's a
Yep.
very important piece.
Hennessy going through his graveyard, taking a look. Blessing of Occult would be decent if this hand can strip all the cards from Ira. Would provide some insurance for the next hand. This is where failure to take all the cards from Ira could result in a game loss. Maybe not. It wouldn't be directly on the next turn, but it would be to the incremental advantages that the Ira would get, plus the possible blood debt that would be taken because there are no Bloodspill incantations on the board to bail him out. So Hennessy is going to have to keep the pressure on Rosker.
I can't really think of a way that you can force Ira's hand. I think, sending 2 and 5 is one of them was a blue, so that works out. And so they have 2 resources floating. Not sure if that's gonna matter because there's no access to go again after this initial attack.
Yep. Rushing River, Whelming Gust Wave, and I can't quite tell what the other 2 cards are, but there are at least 2 blues in the Ira's hand. So Arcane Barrier not going to be an issue. Blessing of the Occult. This will pop at the beginning of the Vincett's turn and provide 3 rune chance. So more damage on the next turn, less damage on this turn. Deck getting a little bit thin, but I don't think fatigue is going to be the win con in this game.
Once again, no Shadow non-attack has been played this turn, so we have no Vincent activation. So this is an easy 3-card cover-up. The question is, obviously they're going to prefer to hold a blue card. Can they hold a blue, and is that arsenal an attack? Is the question. Because if that arsenal is attacked, then it puts the Vincent player in a...
That's a 10-foot tall. Oh my goodness, a giant gamble from our Ira player. 10-foot tall and bulletproof, blocking for 10.
I love that play.
Wow. It's Storm Striders, but in a more knucklehead way.
It's Storm Striders.
It's Storm Striders for people that can't do wizard things. Oh my goodness, that is huge. So 10-foot tall and bulletproof blocks for 10, but it reduces your intellect the next turn by 2, which against this Vincent is gonna be lights out. However, that did allow him to keep an extra card. So with 1 resource open, what is the worst possible situation that this could be? Because it's very unlikely that it is 4 go again into a 1 cost. Very unlikely it's a 3 cost. So, that is good.
Oh,
that is real good. That's real good.
Rendition. The Haunting Rendition was floating, so that's really good for Vinny.
Yep.
You have the 4 block. You have to take this one.
Yep.
But then you die to a 1 for 5 because you can only... Well, you don't die, but you're at 1 with, with no card and no tempo.
He has 2 cards in hand. He could swing the whale. But that's what he would have 4 rune chance. Swing the whale would actually be enough if Ira's at... No, Ira's still at 2, so that's actually not enough.
Yeah.
Remember, Ira's going to draw only 2 cards, right? So...
Right.
Okay, dropping. Okay, Pounding Gale, going to request both cards. He's going to get 2 rune chance from the reduce as well. Okay. Not entirely relevant, though, because Ira's likely to draw blue. But if Ira does not draw blue, she will die.
No. It'd be 5 and then 1, so it has to be exactly...
Oh, there's a double strike as well. It's still available to be played. Or did he attack twice with the double strike? I thought he attacked twice with the
Yeah.
double strike.
Yeah, he did. The first one was eaten by the Haunting Rendition.
Okay. So reduce and widespread destruction going to block generator rune chant.
And that's it. That locks the Vinny out of her turn.
Yep.
She can't attack with the weapon, and now Ira has full tempo with
two
Kodachi
cards.
Lock.
with two cards, though. Okay. Imagine if this is a 10-foot tall and bulletproof. Oh, a flick flack. Okay. Is that a blue? Probably not.
That gives Kodachi's go again, period. No matter what it is.
That is true, yes. This will get 2 cards. Okay, so that weapon...
Is it enough?
Should be basically flipped over at this point because Vincent's never swinging that.
What did they draw?
What did 10-foot tall and bulletproof give? We know a flick flack was given. And hold on. Hold on.
No
Wait,
way.
no way.
No way.
Wait a second. Hold on. What? Hold on. Did I miss something? Did I not download the whole folder? Hold on. Let me find the folder again. Okay, opening the folder. Day 2.
Right when it was getting good. They don't have the end?
They don't have the end. What? So, well, sorry guys, the VOD does end before we actually get a conclusion to this game. But it looks like the Kodachi lock locks Vincent out of the game, even though Vincent has several rune chants that they could fire. So, yeah. I'm going to ask Ken if there's a second file he forgot to upload, because you can't do this. You just can't do that. All right. Well, sorry, guys. Well, congratulations to Rosker for winning the ProQuest Plus. Sorry that we did not have footage of the very last moments of the game. I think this was a really, really interesting game, Nathan. I think both players played extremely well. This game was going really, really quickly at first, and then we got a very, very nice, intricate late game where both players were where the Vincent was trying to set up and burst, and the Ira was trying to leak damage and shorten the clock. So, yeah, pretty good game, even though we didn't get to see the end.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Very well played from both sides. 10-foot tall and bulletproof. What a card! Apparently, even though it only blocked for 5, it was pretty impressive in that spot. And I mean, what a way for the game to end.
Yeah,
or not end.
Like 10-foot tall and bulletproof says, I'm gonna gamble. I'm gonna keep an extra card or 2 or 3, and then pay that debt off later. So. Now, in Ira, that's actually quite good, right? Because if you could conserve extra cards, you could really lock them down into the Kodachi lock range. And even though you're only drawing 2 cards in the next turn, you still could potentially put out 8 damage, which when they're at 1, or if they're at 1, it really literally requires block, and then 2 cards to block the third attack. So I'm guessing that's how the game ended. But we'll never know. Or we may know if I could get Ken to send me the VOD. So we'll see. All right, guys. Anyways, this has been Josh Lau and Nathan Crawford with the Card Guys. Thank you so much for watching. We've worked very, very hard to get the Battle Hardened and ProQuest Plus VODs out to you guys. And we hope that you guys have enjoyed watching the coverage that we could provide. I hope that you guys enjoyed the casting from everybody on the team. This was a team effort to get all these VODs out as quickly as we could. So big shout out to the other Card Guys. Big shout out to Mox Saga and Ken for getting us 8 of the 9 videos, 9 of the 10 videos. So, you know, big shout out to them for hosting the event and for recording the event in Hong Kong. Well, I guess that wraps up the Rosetta Classic Constructed format, Nathan.
That does it.
Yeah. On to the Hunted. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Hey man, did you get the KO deck for Worlds? No one's doing that, okay? Like,
Turn to play whole horse now. Don't kill him. Get greedy. Put him in the middle for now. That's perfect. All right, next year.
Arthurian champion.